We need to bring you up to speed with the key changes for the Cheltenham Festival programme and the season programme as well as we build up to the 2025 festival. Because it's past midday, the embargo is lifted, we can give you all of those key changes. We'll be speaking to Jon Pullin from Cheltenham Racecourse. We'll be speaking to Ruby Walsh as well a little bit later on in the show with his views on those changes. Here are some of those key changes you should be aware of for the 2025 programme. So the 2 mile 4 turners, which is the Gold Medal Novices chase, will be replaced by a Grade 2 limited novice handicap chase over the same distance. We knew that one. The National Hunt Chase will become a Class 2 novice handicap chase, a 0 to 145, with amateur rider restrictions for jockeys removed to allow professionals to take part. The key thing for those two, trying to funnel horses into the Arkle and the Broadway, the quality horses into those. Glenfarclas Cross Country Chase will be changed from a conditions race to a limited handicap. We were aware of that one. The race conditions for the Ryanair Mares Novices Hurdle will be changed to remove the penalty structure, resulting in a level weights contest. Clearly a view on that to enhance the programme and get those better mares running in better races throughout the season. From 2025, the race condition for the Per Temps Network Final Handicap Hurdle will be altered to provide a guaranteed run in the Per Temps Final for all winners of series qualifiers, provided they are within the weights at declaration stage, rewarding those horses that do indeed win those qualifiers, guaranteeing them a run in the final itself. Currently, horses must have run at least 3 times chases or 4 times hurdles to be eligible to run in non-novice handicaps at the festival. From 2025, this will be increased to 4 chase and 5 hurdle runs. In addition to these changes, the Jockey Club will be increasing prize money over the 4 days by £115,000, taking the total on offer at the Cheltenham Festival to £4.93 million in 2025. Those are your race programme changes. What about the festival experience? There are going to be more hard-standing trackway laid in Cheltenham Racecourse's grass car parks. Oh, we know what happened last year with the rain and cars getting stuck, covering an area the size of 17 football pitches. This will aid the arrival and departure of racegoers, especially in adverse weather conditions. A new park and ride system will be launched within easy access of Cheltenham. I went a bit Partridge then. National Express to offer coach travel direct to Cheltenham Racecourse from more than 20 pickup locations, all enhancing the festival experience for racegoers, who will now have more course-facing areas to enjoy a drink, easing queues and reducing the need to rush between races. And hot and cold meal deals will be offered, giving racegoers the opportunity to save money when buying any hot and soft drinks with food throughout the day. That's your festival experience. As far as value at the festival goes, because we talked about rising costs putting people off, potentially, all ticket prices for the 2025 Cheltenham Festival will be frozen at 2024 levels. Racegoers purchasing a ticket for any day of the festival will be given a 20% discount on any tickets purchased for other days of the event. Discounts will not be applied to Gold Cup Day tickets. Groups of 6 people can save 10% on ticket prices when booking together. Previously, the discount offered was to groups of 15 or more. And in partnership with leading sports tour operator Venator Racing, racegoers will have the opportunity to purchase discounted packages, including tickets, hotels, travel and more, in a one-stop shop initiative known as Room to Race. So whatever you think about these changes to all 3 factors of the festival, it seems the team there have very much listened and they're being proactive with regards to the 2025 programme and experience. Let's hear what Jon Pullin, Clerk of the Course at Cheltenham, has to say.
We are here in late September here at Kempton with news of the Cheltenham Festival. It's still 6 months away, but there's been lots of talk in recent time about changes, both on and off the track. And on behalf of the racecourse, Jon Pullin, the Clerk of the Course, is here to just tell us a bit more. I guess it's been quite a busy summer.
It certainly has, yes. You know, after this year's festival, there was a lot of noise, really, around various elements, as you say, both on track and off. And, you know, every year we would carry out a review of the festival, but as a team we felt that this year it probably needed a bit more of an in-depth sort of review, particularly around the race programme. And, you know, the idea behind that is that we want to continue to evolve the festival and make sure that it's relevant and make sure that we're providing the competitive racing that everybody wants to see. And so we've gone through a process this summer. We've spoken to numerous individuals, organisations that you would expect us to, BHA, Levy Board, PJA, NTF, and then leading owners, trainers, jockeys, members of the media, you know, bookmaker representatives, you know, to really sort of understand their view on the festival as it currently stands, and sort of try and get any ideas that they had of how we can make improvements. You know, we were very conscious we didn't want to go out with a list of proposals and sort of try and garner sort of yes or no answers to whether they supported the proposed changes or not. It was very much a listening exercise. We wanted to understand where other people's views were on the festival.
Now, before we talk about specific changes, was the 2024 Cheltenham Festival, be it on the track where you've talked about the race changes, but also off it, because we will come to that, was that a tipping point this year? Did it accelerate where you already were thinking, if you see what I mean? Yeah,
I think what this year's festival highlighted was a continuation of some trends from a race programme point of view. You know, we'd seen races or race performance across certain races that we knew we were going to have to address at some point, and I think this year's festival probably just highlighted that. So, you know, as I say, we review every year, but we really felt that we needed to do something and actually implement some changes this year.
Significantly, the Grade 1 Turners, since it's been established since 2011, has had that Grade 1 status the last, 10 years or so. We are talking about that now as a historical race. It's gone.
It has, yes. You know, I think the one sort of reassuring thing throughout the process was that the themes that we believed we needed to focus on, the areas of the programme that we believed were the right areas, also came from those that we spoke to as well, and particularly the novice chase division.
Yep.
You know, current programme, 3 Grade 1s and the Grade 2. There isn't really the horse population at this stage to support that programme. And so we've looked at all 4 races. And the changes that we're making is, as you say, the Grade 1 Turners, the 2.5 mile division, that goes to be replaced by a novice handicap.
Yep.
A race that used to be in the programme previously, before the Turners.
Very recently produced a Gold Cup winner.
Yeah, absolutely. A very competitive race as well, and has produced good horses. And so we've taken the view that reverting back to a novice handicap in that race should force some of the real top quality graded horses into either the 2 mile Arkle or the 3 mile Brown Advisory. So not only create a really competitive race in the 2.5 mile division, but strengthen both the 2 and 3 mile races as well.
So when people say naturally you lose a Grade 1 race, there's a sort of immediate assertion you're losing quality, but it's not with that in mind. It's to, and this actually brings us on to the National Hunt Chase as well, is because you are changing the dynamics of that, all the while boosting the prestige, the profile, the quality of what you deem to be the best graded novice chases at the festival.
That's right. You know, what we want to see is competitive racing, and this is a reaction to the horse population as it currently stands.
Yeah.
You know, we'd be very hopeful that you know, that horse population evolves and changes in the future, and we get enough quality horses to sustain a programme as it currently stands with 3 Grade 1s, and we would, you know, love to revert back at some point in the future, but when the horse population is there to sustain it.
So you just to go back a point about how you have canvassed opinion and come to these conclusions, how rigorous a process has this had to be?
It has been very rigorous.
And who's been involved?
Yeah, so we've gathered a lot of data, both internally. You know, our own team have produced a lot of data around, you know, field sizes, competitiveness, and that's looking at you know, betting performance and things like that. We've had data from the BHA, we've had data from the levy board, we've had data from bookmaker representatives. So it's been an in-depth review, but I think the important thing was that we were having conversations with those involved in the sport and sort of listening. We wanted to hear where they saw the festival as it currently stands and where potentially changes could be made for the better. So it's been a lengthy process, but a very enjoyable one to be part of, you know, because we're all very passionate in jump racing about the festival. We all want it to succeed,
yes.
And you know, that's very much been the focus throughout this process.
So to return to the National Hunt Chase, it's already been subjected this decade alone to changes, or within the last 5 or 6 years or so. What other changes are we looking at for the immediate future with that race?
Yeah, so currently a Grade 2. There were changes made to the race in 2019.
Yep.
And I think it's probably safe to say that the race isn't...
It took a lot of backlash then, didn't it?
It did, yes, it did after the 2018 running, and,
Yeah.
and the changes were made for 19 onwards. And what we've seen now is a race, generally 5, 6, 7 runners, probably 2 or 3 of those realistically in with a chance of winning. And we've taken the view that to sort of help strengthen, you know, certainly the Brown advisory, you know, real graded horses should be running, hopefully, in that Brown advisory. We're going to change the National Hunt Chase to a 0 to 145 novice handicap. And the other change we're making with the race is it's currently confined to amateur riders, and in making the change that we have, we're going to open that up to professionals as well.
Which is a significant change, because you're talking about the most historic race at the whole festival, 160 odd years of history. So when somebody turns around to you and rightly brings that up and throws the point, well, if you're going to make what you deem to be a progressive change to it, you're actually doing away with the historical context to it. What do you say?
Yeah, you know, we were very cognizant of that fact. It is a race that helped form the original Cheltenham Festival.
Yeah, it was the race, wasn't it?
It was. You know, and it has evolved over the years, and we see this very much as the latest sort of evolution of the race. And what has driven the decision to open it up to professionals is, you know, it's a staying novice chase, and both horse and rider requirements were introduced in 2019 for very good reasons. And one of the objectives that we've carried through this whole process is to retain that strong eye on equine welfare. And when you look at the pool of riders that actually meet the criteria to be able to ride in the race, it's actually a very small pool of riders. And in opening up the race as a novice handicap, we felt that, you know, clearly one of the things we want to do is improve the field size in the race.
Yep.
And what we wanted to make sure is that we'd got you know, enough riders available to ride in it. And, you know, it was some of the feedback that we got from trainers throughout this process was one of the restricting factors in entering horses and running horses in that race was the rider requirement. So we feel it's the right opportunity now to open it up to professionals. It's not stopping amateurs riding in it that meet the criteria. It's just making sure that we've got a suitable pool of riders available for the race in its new guise.
John, I'm conscious of your time. I know that there's lots to get through. Where are we with the cross-country?
Yeah, so the cross-country change is to revert back to a handicap. A limited handicap this time. So it started life as a handicap. Changes were made and it became a conditions race. And I think, you know, what we've seen is a fantastic race over recent times with, you know, real quality horses taking part in the race. We're very conscious that we want to retain those horses at the festival. You know, some would argue potentially that those horses, you know, should run in the Gold Cup. I don't think that's realistic, personally. You know, I think they've had potentially their time in the Gold Cup. So we want to ensure that, you know, there is an opportunity for those horses to compete at the festival. That said, we need to have a more competitive cross-country race. And so we believe that in sort of reverting back to a limited handicap, there is still enough incentive for those good horses to take part, but in having that sort of weight range within it, it becomes a more competitive race and brings others into it as well.
What do you make of Eddie O'Leary's comments regarding, to anyone who doesn't know, regarding effectively he said the horse Tiger Roll, that is, would have disappeared were the cross-country not a conditions race? Yeah,
you know, I can't go back and sort of back in time and challenge Eddie as to whether he would or wouldn't have competed as a handicap. You know, clearly through this process we've spoken to a number of owners, trainers, you know, those that have been involved in the cross country. And you know, with any change that we make, we're well aware that we're not going to please everybody. You know, there will be changes that some you know, find difficult to understand or think that we shouldn't have made. But this is one I think it's safe to say that pretty much everybody that we've spoken to felt was a change that was needed.
And without actually changing the framework of races, further changes I want to mention, the actual run-up, the changes to the criteria of getting into the races, that's been subject to a couple of the races at the festival, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've made changes to the run requirements to run in open handicaps.
Yep.
And this is sort of twofold, really. Firstly, we want to ensure that those open handicaps are as competitive as possible. And the current requirement of 3 runs in a chase and 4 runs over hurdles to run in a Class 1 or 2 handicap at the festival, we believe there is scope to move that number of run requirements forward to 4 over fences and 5 over hurdles. And that's to ensure that the horses that are competing in those open handicaps, the handicappers had a sort of a really good chance to assess them and make sure that they're on marks that reflect their abilities. We've seen over the years that the open handicap route has been a route for some really good horses that you would have hoped would have taken part in the graded races. So we're hoping that by increasing the run requirement, it will push, again, graded horses into graded races.
So, look, in conclusion with the race side of things, and I very, very briefly want to touch on off-course as well, is all of what you together have done, I know Ruby Walsh, the winningmost rider in the history of the festival, is involved, are all of these moves designed to just increase the quality of the Cheltenham Festival for I'm not saying for the long-term future, but immediately hit the ground running with it, making races like the Brown Advisory, making races like the Arkle just that much more distilled with quality at the top? Yeah,
that's certainly one of the main hopes, is that there is a fairly immediate sort of uplift in quality across the festival, and that we see the best horses competing against each other, but also that the competitiveness of the other races is improved as well. Any race changes take a while to bed in, and I'm sure these will as well. But hopefully we'll see some positive impact, certainly at next year's festival.
And I'm going to ask you to speak on, and apologies for this, because we haven't got Ian Renton here, but he has said value for money, the need to provide the best experience possible, and the competitiveness of the race programme. They've been effectively the structure on which this has been created. Now, you've talked about extensively the race programme, but after, again, the fallout from the Festival 2024, how much was needed to be provided when it comes to value for money, customer experience, i.e. having your car towed out of a car park and so on? How much of an effect did that have on the summer that Cheltenham has had to have?
Yeah, clearly after this year's festival and some of the issues that came from it, you've touched on a couple there, the sort of the value and the car park issues. We knew again, straight after the festival, that there would need to be some work done to understand what we could do to make improvements. It's been very much this process on the other side of it, not the race planning side, but very much about improving that customer experience.
Yeah.
We want to understand what we could do to make a difference to that for our customers. Because what we need to see is returning customers year on year. We need people to come to the festival, enjoy the racing, but have a great experience around the racing as well.
Because generally speaking, it almost feels like, and I'm only speaking from my personal experience, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree, that the Cheltenham Festival is that untouchable event in so many ways. The quality is always there. The attraction is such. It's the pilgrimage for so many people. But it almost felt, certainly looking on from social media this year, as though maybe that magic and that sort of the allure of it was slightly under threat. Is that a feeling that was shared from within?
I think so, to some degree.
Yeah.
We're very conscious of the standing that the festival has, both within racing and in sport in general. But what we don't want to be is complacent and just sort of when we have things that don't go perhaps as well as we would like, just sort of brush it under the carpet and move on to the following year. We're continually trying to make the experience better. Car parks, you've said were one of the main issues from last year's festival. There are restrictions around that. We're in Greenbelt. We can't just tarmac everything. Firstly, planning restrictions. Secondly, the cost of that.
Yeah.
So, whilst we have to acknowledge, the ultimate is probably out of our reach, there are significant things that we can do to try and make improvements. There will be more trackway than there's ever been at Cheltenham before. We've looked and worked with, sort of local car parks even to try and set up, park and ride in sort of outlying areas so that people don't necessarily have to come to site, and park on site. So there's lots of work gone on by the wider team to really try and make improvements on that side of it. But also, food and beverage always comes up. you know, and that's where the value comes in. So, you know, discounting multi-day ticket pricing. You know, we'd seen from customer research that people were attending less days. Those that came 2 now only come 1, or, you know, 3 days down to 2. And there's numerous factors that affect that. You know, so ticket pricing has been looked at and changes made there to try and create value. But also, you know, we can't lose sight of accommodation. You know, those that do come for multi-days, you know, have over recent years encountered sort of fairly significant pricing in the local area for hotels. You know, so straight after this year's festival, you know, some of the team have been liaising with the local hotels and the local hotel sort of groups to try and understand what can be done to, you know, to influence that. And, you know, where possible, you know, they've acknowledged that, you know, even for them, 2024 perhaps wasn't as good as it had been in previous years. So, you know, there's an acknowledgement from those in the local community as well that collectively we need to work together to ensure that the festival, you know, retains its position as the pinnacle.
And that's why, because it is the festival, we don't need to dress it up any other way that we're talking about it in September. Jon, thank you very much indeed. Big 6 months ahead, and thank you for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
Right, let's spin through those Cheltenham programme changes for you. So we can work out exactly what it is they're doing and analyse why they're doing it as well. The 2 mile 4 turners, the Gold Miller Novices Chase, will be replaced by a Grade 2 limited novice handicap chase over the same distance. Of course, we used to have the novice in there and novice handicap in there, and initially it had no higher rating band either. It then became a 0 to 140, then a 145, etc. It is back as a limited novice handicap chase. The National Hunt Chase will become a Class 2 novice handicap chase, which does have a high rating band, so 0 to 145, with amateur rider restrictions for jockeys removed to allow professionals to take part. The Glenfarclas Cross Country Chase will be changed from a conditions race to a limited handicap. We were aware of that for a few weeks back. The race conditions for the Ryanair Mares Novice Hurdle will be changed to remove the penalty structure, resulting in a level weights contest, seemingly to encourage those mares to run in probably higher quality races in the build-up to the festival. From 2025, the race conditions for the Pertemps Network Final Handicap Hurdle will be altered to provide a guaranteed run in the Pertemps Final for all winners of series qualifiers, provided they are within the weights at declaration stage. Currently, horses must have run at least 3 times chases or 4 times hurdles to be eligible to run in non-novice handicaps at the festival. From 2025, this will be increased to 4 chase and 5 hurdles runs. You may be aware that novices are starting to dominate a lot of those at open handicaps. Cheltenham expert Matt Toombs informs me that over 50% in the last 5 years of the open handicaps have gone to novices. They're clearly trying to counter that, give the handicapper more of a chance to get a handle on these novices. In addition to these changes, the Jockey Club will be increasing prize money over the 4 days by £115,000, taking the total on offer at the Cheltenham Festival to £4.93 million in 2025. Here to pick out some of the highlights of that, Ruby Walsh joins us before racing today. Ruby, how's things? Give me sort of your key takeaway. Which of those changes has leapt out at you as being most significant?
Probably the most significant one, Tom, is definitely the Turner's Novice Chase being replaced by novice handicap, because it was a Grade 1. It's been axed, and effectively that will split the Grade 1 horses into the 2 miles and the 3 mile, into the Arkle and the Brown Advisory. So it's been replaced with a novice handicap that's unlimited. What the top rating band will be in that, time will only tell. But look, it's definitely narrowed down the options for novice chasers. This time last year there was 4 novice chases at the Cheltenham Festival. This time this year you'll have 2 graded ones and 2 novice handicaps, and to me that's the most significant change.
And do you think we will see horses funnelled into the Arkle and the Broadway? That's clearly what they're trying to do. And as a result of these 2 significant changes to the National Hunt Chase and the axing of the Turners replaced by a novice's handicap, going to mean that those races are inherently more competitive, which is a good thing, no?
Yeah, it should do. I mean, if you look at last year's race, Grey Dawning, Genie's Destiny, do you think either of those would shoulder top weight the novice handicap chase, or would they have run in most likely the RSA or Brown Advisory, for both of those horses? So, ultimately it should. I think also the axing of the National Hunt Chase, or the changing of the National Hunt Chase will push horses back into the Brown Advisory as well. I think if you look at that race last year, the first Corpus Cross, Embassy Gardens, they would have run in the Brown Advisory. So yeah, you can see where both races should benefit from the changes.
What do you make of the National Hunt Chase change to allow professionals to ride in it? I mean, I think for those that have been going to the Cheltenham Festival since the inauguration of the National Hunt Chase for amateur riders, that might not sit great with them. What do you make of reasonings behind why that's happened and the change as a whole?
I think the pool of riders is definitely dwindling in the amateur sphere. I rode my first or second ride at Cheltenham was in the National Hunt Chase, but I do think 30 years ago, or almost 30 years ago, Tom, more people use the amateur ranks as an apprenticeship into racing to become a professional. I think that has changed. And I think ultimately that changed when the rules in Ireland changed and allowed professionals to turn back into amateur riders. I think that had a huge impact on the pool of young people riding as amateurs. And now they're all professionals. And if they don't make it, they can turn back amateur. So I think that was the start of the end for me with the National Hunt Chase. And unfortunately, the pool of riders isn't big enough at the moment, and it's been changed to professionals.
The removal of that £5 penalty for the Ryanair's Mayor's Novices hurdle, what differences do you think we might see, I guess not just in the race itself, but in the build-up? Do you think that the programme might be more competitive in the build-up to that race as a result? That's
what you're hoping. And I think the changes at the festival were made with the rest of the season in mind. And that goes for the competition in novice chases. It's where horses run before they get to Cheltenham, and definitely with the penalty structure in the Mayor's Novice Hurdle, it did put some mares off running in graded Mayor's Novice Hurdles last year. They didn't want to get that penalty for the festival. So without that, it should encourage mares to run in the better Mayor's Novice Hurdle. So look, that I think has a bigger impact on the rest of the season than it does that particular race.
And I guess the same answer in some ways, the impact on the rest of the season is going to apply to the novices needing to have 4 runs over fences and 5 over hurdles if they're going to run in the open handicaps. We have definitely seen a growing trend to more novices performing very well in those open handicaps.
Yeah, you have. And look, again, this is a change that Cheltenham has made for the benefit of the rest of the sport, and you have to admire them for that, especially the hurdle one. There are 2 novice handicap chases at the festival. For horses who don't get to get the required amount of runs, they will have 2 novice handicap chases to run in, whereas the hurdlers will have to have had 5 runs over hurdles. And, hopefully, or I'm sure the intention is that you will push a lot of the novices out of the Martin Pipe into the Albert Bartlett and the Baring Bingham. That could or may well have a knock-on effect on the Supreme, but the other challenge for the Supreme is how you get more ex-Irish and UK flat horses to go hurdling. And unfortunately, Cheltenham can't solve that problem. That's one for the industry to sort out.
Ruby, thanks for your time.
Cheers, Tom.
Thanks to Ruby Walsh.